The Russians have been given the order to vacate the Russian consulate in Gdańsk by midnight tonight. However, the Russian side has announced that at least one employee will remain in the building. After years of missed rent payments, the Russians have taken to squatting in a former consulate building. Today at 11:59 p.m. is the last minute that this consulate can operate. Starting at midnight, the building becomes just a regular building. But there is a problem. At least one person has already announced that they will remain in the building. There's 2 cars parked, and the lights are on. There will be one person, an administrative employee, who will remain inside to prevent the building from being taken over by the state treasury. We are hearing such announcements from the Russian side. The situation is legally identical to if you rented an apartment and the tenant did not want to move out. We are entering into a court recovery process. The authorities in Gdańsk have received written information confirming the disregard by the Russian side of the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs instructions. Properties owned by the state treasury should be transferred to the state treasury. From what we know, according to a letter received from the Russian embassy, this will not happen. An administrative and technical employee of the embassy will remain in the property, so we will not be able to physically take them over. The fact that this consulate is ceasing to operate means that the 10 employees must leave the territory of the Republic of Poland by midnight. Otherwise, they will be declared persona non grata, which is a stronger signal. The person we are hearing about is not a diplomat. Should the case go to court, evicting the remaining Russians would become essentially impossible. Such a court case, not unlike cases concerning a tenant renting an apartment, may take years. The government will simply wait. According to what we have received from the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we know clearly that in the event of a negative reaction from the Russian side to the proposed proceedings on the transfer of these properties, it will be necessary to apply to the General Prosecutor's Office of the Republic of Poland to file a lawsuit on behalf of the state treasury for the release of these properties. However, at this point, following the withdrawal of consent for the Russian consulate to operate, neither the building nor its employees are under the authority of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The building now belongs to the city of Gdańsk. At that moment, the property loses its protected status under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and can, of course, be used after the appropriate ruling and release for the needs of the state treasury. When the Russians wanted to get rid of Polish diplomats from their own country, they found ways to do so. They froze accounts and revoked visas. To put it bluntly, they used force. This is how Russian diplomacy works. Only force can expel someone. They will always conjure up some documents to justify their continued squatting, be they from the time of Peter I, the time of Abraham, or Ivan the Terrible. The document, of course, isn't the point. The point is that the Russians are daring the other side to remove them by force. To make matters worse, the debt owed by the Russian side for the use of the Russian Consulate General building located in Gdańsk, which belongs to the Polish state treasury, was decreased from over 5 million zloty to over 2 million zloty under hazy circumstances. However, the Russians have not paid a single zloty one way or another. The Russians claim that since the consulate building in the center of Gdańsk was destroyed, they are entitled to the building in Gdańsk. This is a strange interpretation of history, because it was the Soviets who destroyed Gdańsk during World War II. Russian diplomats have occupied the building on Batory Street since 1951. When they moved in, the ownership of the buildings was not settled. In the 1970s, the building became the property of the Polish state treasury. This means that rent should be paid to the city for it. The consulate does not pay, and it leaves an employee to guard the building. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is waiting for a court ruling. Don't worry, we won't let ourselves be provoked. We will regain these properties through the power of argument and the law. However, given the disregard for previous orders, this may be a miscalculation. The language of traditional diplomacy, as it is used between countries in the Western sphere, does not work when dealing with the Russian Federation. For now, this is a symbolic protest in Kielce and a preview of what will happen at the end of the year throughout Poland. Farmers do not intend to agree to the Mercosur agreement. They will defend Polish land and food against a flood of questionable quality products from South America. We want to express our expectation that the Polish parliament will adopt a resolution that unequivocally obliges the Polish government to reject the agreement with Mercosur. The agreement with Mercosur is very dangerous for Polish agriculture because we have unequal conditions for competition. In that economic zone, they do not have the European Union Emissions Trading System, ETS. They do not have the Green Deal. They use completely different plant protection products. Today, in the Świętokrzyskie province, last week on the roads of western Pomerania. And in front of the headquarters of Brussels officials, where farmers from EU countries protested. Farm owners are saying no to Mercosur today, and Polish farmers who produce the highest quality food have the most to lose. I call on Donald Tusk and the entire government to stand by the Polish people, to represent Polish interests, not the interests of Germany or other countries, because a good host first takes care of his own backyard and then represents the interests of his neighbors or other people. According to farmers, Donald Tusk is neither a good host nor a good representative of Poland in Brussels. If the version we currently have on the table is implemented, it is largely safe from the point of view of Polish farmers and also Polish consumers. For 2 years, nothing has been done. Nothing has been accomplished. We have made proposals, and I urge those in power to finally get down to work. Farmers are appealing for this, and Polish President Karol Nawrocki is appealing for this. Until 2023, there was a blocking minority. Recently, also during the Polish presidency, it has been squandered. Now you are celebrating clauses that are an illusion. Accepting this agreement is a disaster. Prime Minister, we need to build a blocking minority, not talk. We would like this blocking minority to be created. We are doing everything from the beginning. No one has changed their opinion on this subject. There is a resolution of the Polish government. There is a resolution of the Polish parliament. Poland is not in the blocking minority against Mercosur, even though the leader of the December 13th coalition insisted that he would not support an agreement that is harmful to Polish farmers. Tusk was so vocal that Poland would stop the agreement with Mercosur. But when he went to Brussels, the German chancellor didn't even turn to Tusk, just waved his hand dismissively, and Tusk meekly went out to the cameras and praised the agreement. Donald Tusk could have blocked the agreement, which may destroy Polish agriculture. All he had to do was join the group of protesting countries. They were one vote short. Another year has passed in which we, Polish farmers, are being lied to. At first, the government claims that it is against the agreement with the Mercosur countries. Then the PSL says that it is introducing protective clauses, which in reality do not even cosmetically protect the interests of Polish agriculture and food security. Donald Tusk proves once again that he is just a liar, that all he cares about is what benefits Germany. Because it is Germany that will benefit most from the Mercosur agreement. Cheap and low-quality food will flood European markets, and in return, German cars will hit South American roads. The Mercosur agreement doesn't make sense. The Mercosur agreement is extremely destructive. Not only does it hit our farmers, but it also undermines food security across Europe, all in order to strengthen the automotive industry and the machine industry in general in Germany. But farmers are announcing that they will thwart Donald Tusk's devious plan. Prime Minister Donald Tusk's recent statements that this agreement meets the expectations of farmers and consumers is completely unacceptable in the agricultural community. There is great concern among farmers today, hence the announcement of protests on December 30th. These protests are against Mercosur, but also against the policy of the December 13th coalition government, which is having a destructive effect on the entire agricultural sector. Placing food security in the hands of Mercosur farms controlled by German and Dutch corporations, is a threat to Polish farmers and Polish consumers.
The day before Christmas Eve, shortly after talks between Russian and American delegations ended, the Russian army sent nearly 700 missiles and drones at targets in Ukraine. Poland and its allies scrambled fighter jets that were patrolling the airspace near the border. Several people were killed in the 13 regions of Ukraine attacked, including a 4-year-old child. Many towns in Ukraine are without electricity, heating, and water. Iskander and Kinjal missiles, and several hundred drones. A Christmas present from the Kremlin. Sent as if to mock those who thought even for a moment that it could be a peaceful Christmas. There is already a Christmas tree in my apartment. The children have just decorated it. They were already in the New Year mood, but I wasn't. I would like to go home. The Russians attacked 13 regions. Targets included energy infrastructure facilities and residential buildings. Among the dozen or so fatalities is a 4-year-old child who died under the rubble of a collapsing house. I was sitting in my apartment when I heard a drone flying overhead, and it was already close. I immediately realized what it was and saw a flash. I thought it had flown into our apartment. The shockwave threw my daughter into the hallway. The attack may have been in retaliation for yesterday's bomb attack in Moscow. General Fanil Sarvarov, commander of the Russian Armed Forces Operational Training Department, was killed in a car bomb attack. He was one of the most important people in the Russian command structure. Eyewitnesses are being questioned, and security camera footage is being analyzed. Various versions are being investigated, one of which assumes the potential involvement of Ukrainian intelligence services in organizing the crime. Over the weekend, 2 negotiating teams held talks in Florida. The Russians and Ukrainians presented their positions on the peace plan to the Americans. While Kyiv and Washington have spoken positively about the negotiations, Moscow has not yet officially commented on them. The plan consists of 20 points. Perhaps not everything is perfect, but the plan exists. There are security guarantees between us, the Europeans, and the USA. There is a framework document. There is also a separate document between us and the United States of America, bilateral security guarantees, which we believe should be considered by the US Congress. The White House is sparing with its words. The Americans emphasize that there are mutually exclusive points in the proposals of Kyiv and Moscow. Despite this, the dialogue itself is of great importance. The Kremlin has rejected the proposal to freeze the front line at the current line of contact. Putin wants the whole of Donbass and Luhansk and is announcing an offensive to break through Ukrainian defenses. Kyiv has ruled out the possibility of ceding territory to Russia. In view of the expected Western military support, analysts point to the likely preparation of a spring offensive if the current talks end in failure.